Got Your Eers On is brought to you by Tactical Legion 9.
All right, everybody, hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Got Your Ears On. Guido here, along with Scoot.
Boom goes the...
And Cloney.
What the what?
What the what is right. Johnson out this week, unable to do the show. We miss you, Jay.
He's on assignment. He's on assignment. I've always wanted to say he's on assignment.
He's in the field.
What assignment is he on? That's the question.
I don't know.
I mean, do we have assignments yet? I don't think we have that yet. So anyways, Cloney filling in for Johnson this week. Cloney, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your weekend to join our show.
I appreciate it. In fairness, I was napping when Scoot reached out, so I'm ready to go.
Call from the bullpen and woke up Cloney to jump on the show. But Cloney, Cloney is a relatively new WVU fan. He's a WVU fan by association now because he hangs out with us so much that he has become this like WVU aficionado and watches the game. So he'll be able to give a little bit of input this week, right?
And as our paid intern, he is required to watch all WVU events on television, live stream, or whatever means he can.
I think the only thing that they got wrong there is it's unpaid intern.
Paid and sandwiches. Paid and sandwiches, right.
Cheese and pimento sandwich, whatever that is.
Yes.
I was promised a sandwich.
I was guaranteed at least that much. Not sure if I'll like it, but we'll find out in late December.
We'll find out. So, guys, just to kind of recap, because I guess we do have to talk about WVU football. I've decided I hate football, Scooty. I just despise it. It's not fun for me anymore.
Well, again, I think until it's frustrating because I think everybody in America now it's actually gone beyond just WVU fans. Everybody in America sees what we see, and that's what makes it the most frustrating thing, because you're even hearing announcers, these are national based announcers making comments like that are pretty positive toward Garrett Green, and then almost they're bewildered as to why we don't go back to Garrett Green more. So I don't know, it is frustrating, and I think for me the most frustrating thing is I feel like there are a couple of easy, maybe not maybe not full-blown solutions, but some easy changes that could be made that could help our situation.
Well, and I agree with you. And here's where I'm at. And we saw a lot of it on Twitter the last 48 hours, which is, people are starting to call for Neal Brown's head. And we're talking about like hot seat sort of topic with the head coach. And I think it's all a little premature. Like, I think there are problems. I think there are definitely coaching problems. I think there are personnel problems. But I think that this is the point where as a fan base, as a university, we've got to stop and take a look and go, hey, let's see. Okay, there are problems. Let's see if this guy can fix these problems now. Like he's trudged along for the last 2 years with what he had, and now he's facing problems. And I'm anxious to see, like, does Neal Brown make a turn at this point? And Cloney, as sort of like a new WVU fan, you're just new in the Neal Brown era. Like, do you think after 3 years, not even 3 years, 2 full years, both of which, or one of which had COVID in it, and now, like, is a coach like this on a hot seat after a 2-4 start?
Well, I think anytime you lose and at this level, you start to wonder, like, what's going to happen, what changes they're going to make for next week. And I just don't see any consistency. The quarterback play is all over the place. Garrett Green, I mean, he's a popular pick, and I would like to see him do more stuff, but with the QB play, that's just it. He seems to be married to Dege as the QB, and what's the next step? What are they going to do to win the next game, to win the next series? Like, I have no confidence in what he's going to do to bring them out of this kind of spiral that they're in.
Now, Cloney, let me ask you a question. Cloney is our, besides being our intern, our cheese and pimento sandwich eating intern, he is also a former college football player, maybe not at the Division I level, but he did play some college football. Cloney, when you played, would you say that, I think it's the position coaches are a lot closer to the players than maybe the head coach or even a coordinator, right? So when you played, though, did your head coach have a strong relationship with the skill position players or certain players on the team?
Well, it's the way we played it. I mean, I think a lot of the programs do is like your position coach spends pretty much the entire practice with you, because you break out into like your individual sessions for the majority of the practice, and then you come together. And the head coach, at least my head coach in college, would always stay with the quarterbacks, because the quarterback, center, receivers, like they would always run their drills, and then they'd bring the whole team together to run the team drills or team sessions. So the quarterback and like the head coach were always together. I also played for a coach who was a legendary coach in Division III, but we ran a 1960s veer offense, which was like pretty much it was veer right, veer left, and we had a lot of good players, and it was hard to stop, but we were consistent with it. And I think Neal Brown, I think he's married to the QB, it seems like, and it's just, and he probably has the closest relationship to the QB versus the rest of the team. But the coach still has to oversee everything. But yeah, it just seems like I don't know where they go from here.
Yeah, and I think that is definitely the issue is where do they go? Where does the team go from here, Scooty?
Well, that's a good question. Well, right now we're going to go to a bye week. That's where we're going to go.
Right.
That's the biggest win right there.
Yeah, maybe we don't have to worry about losing next Saturday. But
not going to win either.
No, that's true. We aren't going to win, but we aren't going to lose. Where should they go, or where will we go? Which would you like to hear first?
I mean, where should they go and where will they go, I think are going to be two completely different things, because I think we're all at a point. I mean, there's no WVU fan right now that has any confidence that we're going to win any more but one game this season, I think.
Well,
like,
I
if
agree.
we keep on the track that we're on, there's not a team in the Big 12 other than Kansas, which is like playing, no offense, Cloney, a Division III school. Like, there's no team other than Kansas that will be able to beat this season. That team yesterday, that team that showed up against Baylor, that team's not beating any other team in the Big 12.
Okay, so here...
Can that team beat Kansas that showed up?
That team could beat Kansas. I think that team could beat Kansas because I think Kansas is that bad. That program is in that much of disarray and turmoil that I'm actually not concerned about that game. But listen, all hopes, and I came into this season, you guys all listen to this show, like I came into this season, I was like 8 wins. I followed the hype from the coaches. I thought, like, all the press, all the media, I'm like, this team is going to turn it around this year. We're not playing in a bowl game, folks. Like, we're not getting to a bowl game. Like, it's not happening. And so now you're in a situation where I don't even know what I'm at a point, Scooty, where I don't even know what I think is good now. Like, what will I be happy with?
Well, here are some quick fixes. Will they happen? I don't know. But here are my 2 or 3 quick fixes to kind of right the ship,
okay,
to make us competitive. Maybe not so much win games, but to make us competitive and at least keep some excitement about it. Okay, first thing I would do is obviously what everyone's been clamoring for. I would move Daggy away from the center and maybe, I don't know, on the sideline, and then bring in Garrett Green. Or if you're not going to bring in Garrett Green, maybe Goose Crowder. But we got to try something different. Will it happen? I don't know.
Do you really believe, and think about this before you answer, do you really believe that this team is any different with Garrett Green behind center? Like, do you think we're winning games?
Well, so okay. So I think our biggest problem right now, and it sounds strange, is our run game. Okay, our biggest problem for me is our run game because it's non-existent. We have a what I would think is probably one of the premier running backs in the Big 12.
And he can't run more than 50 yards a game. He
Right.
had 44.
Right.
Letty Brown, again, another game, sub 75 yards,
So how do we help him? We have a porous offensive line right now. So how do we help him? We put a mobile person back at quarterback who could potentially run as well and take some of the heat off of Letty Brown, because if Daggy is in the game and he hands off, it's going to Letty Brown, and they're going to be able to stop him. So I run Garrett Green out there, and then I mix it up as far as the RPO business. I also let Garrett Green throw the ball. That would be a nice touch. I go back to using Bryce Ford Wheaton, who came out of witness protection this past week.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is I tighten up that secondary as best I can, because I think yesterday against Baylor was the first time that actually somebody tried to throw against our secondary, and it showed some of those weak spots.
So, Cloney, let me ask you a question, and this is more for somebody who, again, has played, college level football, which Scooty and I haven't. How hard is it to mid-season change your offense, your offensive scheme? Because I feel like right now, looking at this team, looking at the weak offensive line, to say, hey, if you bring in Garrett Green and you start running more of an option offense, does that open things up a little bit more for you? Thinking that a quarterback pitching it to Letty, more option style play, does that change this team's ability to at least get down the field and score more, points? But they'd have to completely reconfigure their offense midseason.
Yeah, that there is pretty much near impossible because they play two different style of games. But at least they have been playing Green, so they have those packages in there. But it's not going to be the whole offense. He can't throw the ball like Daggy can, so he's not going to just get back there in the shotgun and run, that pass heavy offense. He's going to have to run more. But with the option offense, it does trim it down a lot. Where because he can run and make plays, and they have Letty Brown, they don't need to have this huge pass package in there. They can utilize his skill set and still make plays. But the other downside of that is the defense also knows that, is that instead of playing more back with the safeties, they can creep up a little bit, take away the run game. So now you're limiting Letty Brown's ability, which he hasn't been doing a whole bunch. Now you have more people in the box for Green to deal with. So they do. If Daggy could throw the ball, if he can be more consistent with it, then Green becomes more explosive, more of a weapon. But when you're making him the focal point of the offense, which he isn't going to have the full playbook, he's going to have his trimmed down version of the run and pass game. The defense knows that too, and they can take that out. But he's got to make those plays, and he's got to have more of an opportunity to do that.
Hey, Clone, let me ask you this question. This is for both of you guys. Okay, so we go into the second half of the Baylor game. We're down considerable amounts of points, and we still keep running Jarrett Daggy out. At what point do you think Garrett Green starts to wonder, hey, man, why did they bring me here? If we're struggling and I'm seeing some time in, but you would think, okay, we're down, might as well try to utilize me some. And when he comes in with a spark. Like he has like an X factor that Jarrett Daggy does not have.
On the best day, if he wants to be QB1, like he's saying that first snap of the season, like if he believes he's the best option, that's what you want. Is you want that anyone that's second string, you want them having that mentality that they can step in and be the better performer.
Right.
But I think the challenge that we have here is there's something about Green that the coaching staff doesn't like. That's what I can't figure out, is there's something that Green is doing in practices, if it's passing, if it's the understanding of the passing game, I don't know what it is, but there's something that they don't like about him. But we've spent all of this time, in all of our episodes talking about these two quarterbacks, and I don't think either of them fixes the problem, Scooty. That's what I'm trying to get to.
No, I agree. I think it's a coaching issue.
I think it's a coaching issue. This has become a coaching issue. And I'll tell you the thing that made me the most upset, and I think it made a lot of WVU fans upset. And I even heard Brad Howe, who, Brad Howe is, he used to work for the school. He's sort of, if you listen to the podcast that he's on, he's a WVU apologist. He's all about, WVU's, we're on the right path, trust the climb. He's a trust the climb guy. But even Brad Howe in the post game, show that I listened to on AJR was talking about how I can't believe how unapologetic Brown was at the end of the game. Like in his post-game press conference, there was no, I'm sorry for how bad we played. I'm sorry to the fans that we're not playing better. I'm sorry to the fans that we're not improving. There was none of that. There was a lot of, we played bad football. We struggled, we had problems. We weren't in it, but there was no, hey, WVU fans, I'm sorry that I didn't have the team prepared. And that's what it comes down to, Scooty. I mean, and I listen, we bought into, and you may not have, Scooty didn't buy into, but the rest of us, a lot of us, bought into the fact that, WVU was improved this year. Daggy, most improved player. Offensive line is amazing for a bunch of young guys. And then they're not. We get into the season.
That right side of the offensive line got beat up bad.
Bad. Really bad. And I know Wyatt Milan was out, and
Doug Nestor struggled.
Nestor struggled, the defense. I felt like it was another game, Scooty, where we went into it, coaching-wise, not prepared.
Yeah, offensively, for sure. Now, defensively, I feel like I do have some faith in the defense. I do have some faith in Jordan Leslie. I think that Jordan Leslie is a good guy and a decent coach. The defensive line is typically pretty good. Where we saw the struggle, though, initially, of course, the second play of the game, we get torched for a big pass play.
The secondary looked really rough.
Yes. And the sad thing is I had talked them up in the previous week's show with Jackie Matthews and Darryl Porter Jr. Here I am talking them up, and they were kind of non-existent.
I think Tyquan Thornton is still catching footballs out there. I will say this, Bohannon threw for 336 yards, but he is Baylor's version of Austin Kendall. Those passes, Scoots, were floats my goats. He was floating those passes, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can float passes when guys are 10 yards off of you in coverage. It was ridiculous.
Right. Yeah. I think I'm speaking on behalf of Mountaineer Nation here. I think we're frustrated because, like you said, we were led to believe something. You can kind of lead West Virginians and kind of build them up and pump them up. But once they realize, okay, maybe you weren't telling us the whole truth, and now you're just starting to make us look really bad by letting us believe that you were telling us the truth. That's Neal Brown is on a tightrope. I don't think I'm not ready for him to be let go per se or move on from him per se, but he definitely has to make some changes. He has to.
Yeah, there has to be a mea culpa.
And like you said, he has to be humble, right? He has to own to some of these issues. He has to say, you know what? If offensive play calling is too much for me to do, I need to let Jared Parker, or maybe not Jared Parker, maybe somebody else maybe Chad Scott, or is it Chad Scott, the running backs coach? Maybe let somebody else do the play calling, or if he has been, that's the other thing. We don't really know, right? So we don't know. In the past, I think Holgerson at one point did everything, but before the red zone, and then Spavital did the red zone, or vice versa. And we knew that it was kind of transparent. We knew what was going on. And Dana was unpleased with most of everything because he would rip his headset off and fluff his hair. Now, with Neal Brown, we don't know. He hasn't really been forthcoming with what part of the offensive coordinating duties he does and what does Jared Parker do. Is Jared Parker simply before Saturdays come up with some schemes and some scripts, and then it's pretty much Neal Brown making those decisions, or is it vice versa? I don't know. We don't know. So that needs to change. Also, and I've heard a lot of people wanting something different with our offensive line. I don't know enough about offensive line coaching to know that's the issue.
I don't think anything's there. I think the offensive line problem is youth, and I think in 2 years maybe next year we'll be happy with our offensive line. I think, Scooty, that what I keep coming back to, and what I think this weekend really opened our eyes to, is that there has been and maybe it's not a regression. Maybe it's everybody else is improving. When you play college football, Cloney, week 1's tough. Week 2, you get a little better. Week 3, you start to hit your stride. Maybe week 4, week 5. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah. I mean, you got to build every week. I mean, especially at the college level, it's not like you have unlimited practices. I think it's 20 hours per week you can practice. So every week you have to get better. Like you have those kind of pushover games in the beginning, but every week you should be building towards your ultimate goal, and every week should be better than the last. But a lot of these issues with the Baylor game that I saw, you talk about a young offensive line. There were some instances where Baylor is running in without being touched, and then that's on the offensive line. That's on the running backs for not picking up some of the blitzers coming in. The safeties, like was a one touchdown where the guy's wide open in the end zone. It's just you have to, like, that stuff that this late in the season. It's not like they did a radical different game plan. Is that you shouldn't have blown coverages like that. You shouldn't have people running free, 10 yards from the nearest person, just running across the middle. Like, that's stuff that you shouldn't see this late in the season. Like, the players, they may be young, but this is stuff that they should be cleaning up at this point in the season. And it's troubling that they're not. And a lot of that it's on the players if they're young, but the coaching too is like those missed assignments. It shouldn't be that bad. Like, you shouldn't be down that much to Baylor, right in the beginning of the game. Like the first quarter, that was, were they down 21 points, right away. So it's like you can't come out like digging that much of a hole. It's near impossible to fight back.
Do you guys feel? And I obviously I don't know. We're not at practice, so we're not that close to the team. But perception wise, do you guys feel like because WVU came into this game 2-3, our 3 losses were close losses, right?
Right.
Do you feel like they believed, hey, we're making progress, we're real close, we're right there on the cusp of being, 5-0, 4-1. A couple plays go here or there, we're right there. Do you feel like they kind of thought to themselves, you know what? Let's keep doing what we're doing because it's working. We're just real close. And maybe that was like fool's gold, right? Maybe it really wasn't enough.
I can't imagine, Scooty, that the coaching staff, let alone the players, but the coaching staff is looking at the game tape, is watching the same things we're watching and thinking that. Like, you could also argue it on the other end. I mean, we were a breath away. We were a Jackie Matthews dive away from being, 1-4, 1-5. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that I think building off of what Cloney said, like, I think if you're not, as a coaching staff, looking at every week's game and saying, here are the 15 things we did wrong, we got to make them better next week. Even if it's a win, even in the LIU game, like, that video room should have been full of, hey, here's the things we did wrong in the LIU game that we won 60-0 or whatever. Like, it comes down to me to the fact that I feel like preparation is really bad this year, and I don't know where that stems from, because I didn't feel that way in previous years.
For me, everything I was glass half full until the bowl game. And something for me changed in that bowl game, and I don't really know what it is. But since the bowl game, when we made that switch to Austin Kendall, which seemingly at the time seemed like a better idea because Jarrett Doege was struggling immensely. And I think maybe more frustrating to me is we still see Jarrett Doege, and I think struggling. America thinks struggling. Neal Brown thinks doing great. And that's like, I don't know. I mean, he's looking at stats. We're looking with our eyes, and we're seeing, why is he holding on to this ball so long? Why didn't he throw the ball out of bounds? Why, all of these things that, we're kind of second guessing what Jarrett Doege is doing, and I feel like Neal Brown is, I don't know, unapologetic to what's going on. He's kind of like, well, he's got good stats.
Well, it probably comes down to he believes that Doege gives him the best chance to win. These offensive coordinators, these coaches, they run a style of offense, their preferred style, and he probably believes that Doege gives him that best option to run the full offense they want to run. It may not be executed, but then maybe that's what he's thinking.
I think my concern at this point is that Neal Brown, as great as of a guy that he is,
is that your disclaimer? Is that my? He might be a great guy. I think he's a great guy.
He's a great guy. He's a great guy. I think that he has lost now in these first 5-6 games of the season. Like, he has lost now so many people, so many fans that were in his corner, a month and a half ago at the beginning of the season, Scooty, that aren't in his corner anymore.
Listen, it's to this point now. Like
It's rough.
you've thrown out this slogan, right? You've thrown out this slogan. We're trusting you. We're going along with you. But okay, how long are we supposed to trust you now? Like, we see some easy fixes. You're not going to do them, but we got to trust you. We got to go blind with you and say, okay, well,
and I think that we would be, as fans, I think we would be more accepting of losses. Like, let's just for argument's sake say Garrett Green came out yesterday and played the whole game, and Jared Dagey didn't catch a snap, and we still lost the same. I think we would be more accepting because we'd be like,
we're trying out Green. We're trying
something new.
Right.
Yeah. We're
100%.
trying to make a change.
Yes.
You know? And I think that what we're seeing now is
throw him out there. Prove us wrong. That's how it, prove me wrong. You think he's not
because you're not going to a bowl game now.
Right.
You're not winning the Big 12.
You think he's not the answer? Run him out there and show us why he's not the answer. But if he starts to make plays, you're going to have people saying like, "Hey man, what were you doing? Why were we messing around in the first place?" But like that's what's frustrating. I will gladly, not gladly. I guess I shouldn't say gladly. I don't know that I would gladly lose, but I would, like you said, be more comfortable losing, trying something different, because like I've seen people on Twitter going crazy about insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. Well, that's what we're doing right now. We're trotting out the same stuff. And here's the thing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm short-sighted. Neal Brown, I feel like he was the next big coach, right? He was kind of that small group of coaches when we hired him of, hey, you need to get this guy or go after this guy because he's going to be one of those next-level type coaches. But to be honest, I don't really know what he was known for at Troy.
Well, it was like, what were the two big names that year were him and Luke Fickell, right? Like those were the two big grabs that year, and we got one. Cincy got the other one. Cincy doing substantially better than we are right now. I think that, I don't want to throw Neal Brown out with the bathwater, for lack of a better term. Like,
so what does that mean exactly?
I don't know.
And Neal are
you throw the bathwater out and
together,
he's in the bathwater.
You're bathing Neal Brown.
I know, maybe
that's weird. Things are getting a little weird around here.
I think that I think there are good qualities. I think that he's a great recruiter, and we see what's coming down the pipeline.
He's a good guy. He seems like a genuinely good guy.
And this is where I feel like at the end of the year, you have to, Shane Lyons, has to come to him and say, "Listen, coach, we love you. We're in on you. This style, this coaching staff, you calling the offense, whatever it is not working. It's not working." And yes, the cupboard was bare when you got the team, and we understand that. I mean, I sent you guys the article from West Virginia Metro News about the whole how many NFL players each coach has inherited, and Neal Brown's inherited one in his first 2 years, and I get all of that. Like, the cupboard was bare. Dana left you with a lot to have to fix, and you had to bring in the Austin Kendalls and the Jarrett Dageys, and you had to bring in these transfers to be able to field a team that was at least somewhat competitive. But we're in year 3, and the direction that we're heading is not the right direction. And you can't tell me, like, we can't finish this year and say, oh, next year is going to be better, because there's nothing out there right now that makes next year look better, Scooty.
No, and we're not at this point yet, I don't think. But do we risk losing some of these non-signed commits to things if they feel like, hey, what's going on here? Like, and I know there's the other side of some of these guys that have been recruited are like, hey, I can be the fix, I can be the answer to the problems. And
I'm sure that's what the coaching staff is saying to them.
Right. But you got to think there's probably some other coaches out there who maybe they were the number 2 or 3 school on that kid's list saying, hey, are you sure you're still wanting to go to that? It sounds like it's a mess. Sounds like they can't figure out what's going on offense. Like, you're going to have some back channel, anti-recruiting going on.
Oh, yeah. That's going on every school, every recruit. They're trying to get the best players. But that I think the point is, like, if year 3, like, this is when that coaching, that recruiting should start making an impact. Is getting those, because now you have to also compete with the transfer portal. Is that the bigger schools, bigger than West Virginia, can now go through and try to pluck away players from the offense, defense. Alabama, they win recruiting, they also win the transfer portal too, is they can fill any holes in both sides of the balls and make up for those recruiting mistakes. And West Virginia and other schools in the Big 12, probably outside of Texas and Oklahoma, is they're not going to be able to go to a bigger program and pull players away, pull starters away to make their program better. So they have to hit the first time on the recruiting, and that's getting those skill position players. That's going to be tough. Getting that quarterback. If any college team, they're not going to go anywhere without a consistent, reliable, game-changing quarterback, and that's where, who's going to be that the next few years for West Virginia to take them to that next level.
Scooty, I can't tell you how much it's painful for me right now that we're thinking about next season already. Like we're done with this season. Like we're sitting here talking about recruiting and transfer portal. We're done with this season.
Here's the other issue too,
it's
right?
It's not a good sign.
So by going to a bowl game, you often get that extra month or so of practice, month and a half of practice, and it's getting ready for a game practice, right? It's not just like going out and doing some strength and conditioning kind of stuff or some light pass and receiving kind of stuff. It's like legit practices. We're not going to have the benefit of that. And that's going to be a concern, because that's another way you can continue to grow, and then you can also put a positive spin on a so-so season by winning that bowl game, right? So if we're not going to make a bowl game, that's going to make it a little bit tougher. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
I mean, it's rough, guys. I look at the rest of the schedule, and we talked about it last week.
Pull from your list of preseason predictions, which is over your shoulder there, for those of you watching the Zoom. And can you please go down and let us know how we're doing?
I mean, Scooty is like the oracle right now on our preseason predictions, I will say. Like, Scoot, you've nailed this 100%. Now, I want to ask you. So you picked Texas Tech as a loss. You've got it perfect right now. Like, Scooty has picked WVU season perfect right now. The 2 wins Scooty had was against LIU and Virginia Tech. He had us losing the last 3 games, which we've lost. I will say this, Scooty. You had WVU winning in Fort Worth against TCU in 2 weeks. Where are you on? Are you on that still? Are you?
I am going to stay on it. You know why?
I mean, you're not allowed to change it. You got to live with what you picked at the beginning of the season.
No, I'm going to stay on it. I am hoping that the bye week gives the coaching staff some clarity, and we've got a little extra time to kind of plan, and maybe we squeak one out. I'm hoping for like a 17-14 squeaker.
I mean, Scooty, you had for the rest of the season from this point on, you had 3 more wins. You had us beating TCU, K-State, and Kansas. And I hope you're right. I guess I'm at the point where I hope that Scooty's right with 3 more wins and we finish 5-7. I'm not even sure that's possible.
If we can squeak out those 3, what happens if I go perfect? Cloney, tell him what happens.
What happens if you go? I mean, we have to hear about it for the next year,
and we have to wonder why we didn't put some money on it.
That's absolutely true.
Yes. So here's what happens the following year. There's going to be a lot of pressure on me. Is what will happen.
I mean,
and people are going to be like hounding me for my predictions.
They will. You will be. I mean, you will be the next maybe you get on VSiN or one of those networks. Doing your predictions.
You're gonna find me driving over to Morgantown for the next 14 days with a bullhorn, yelling things from the parking lot to the coaching staff and the players as to what they need to be doing, so that I can get this win next week or 2 weeks from now.
I mean, win for Scoot. It's a tough one, guys. So WVU travels to Fort Worth in 2 weeks. They play TCU on the 23rd. Still a TBA on the game time on that. Should be out in the next day or two. I'm not sure what happens. Like, this is a tough 2 weeks. This is not a good 2 weeks for the players. It's not a good 2 weeks for the coaching staff. There's going to be a lot of talk. There's going to be a lot of shows like ours that are going to be very hard on Neal Brown and the rest of the coaching staff. And it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Hey, I will say this. There is a positive, Guido. Can we
I'm glad. Listen, this is 2 weeks in a row, Scooty, where you have pulled out the positive. Like, I'm not even at the point where I'm looking at the stats to try to find the positives. Dante looked okay, but whatever.
Are you ready for the positive? Maybe it's a scary positive.
What's the scary positive?
Casey Legg.
Casey Legg.
Casey Legg is the positive. Casey Legg didn't play organized football until college.
This is true.
And he has yet to miss a field goal. Does that sound correct? I believe that's true.
That is correct. That is correct. He is perfect for this season right now.
10 for 10,
and
I
he's
believe.
He's gotten quite a bit of opportunities to kick a field
So
goal too.
there is some positive there in the and the return game is still pretty solid. There was a couple of times where Winston Wright was able to get a decent return.
And I think, like you said, I think this was the first team that we played defensively that really kind of took the deep pass, a lot of times. And it really, we saw the weakness there. We saw the secondary finally look weak. And I think Dante still looked good. I mean, Josh Chandler-Shomato still looking great out there. And was in on a lot of plays. Dante got, a couple of tackles and a great sack in there.
Akeem Messidor's been quiet lately. I haven't heard his name.
Akeem Messidor has been quiet. Jordan Jefferson, though, got a sack this week, so that good for him. I think that there's still quality. I'm with you. I also feel like, Scoot, and this is bad to say, I feel like Neal Brown doesn't really have his hand in the defense.
No.
I feel like Jordan Leslie is kind of running the show there. And, I will say this, and I've heard this in a couple of different places, actually. There needs to be somebody on the coaching staff that steps up, that takes these guys, that's the dad, and kind of says, hey, we need to buckle down. We need to play. And to be honest with you, I think one of those guys is, and it's a guy who's been with the team for a long time, is a guy like Mike Joseph. Mike Joseph has been with the team, as the strength and conditioning guy for, I don't know how long, like 3-4 coaches now.
Since Barwis, so since Rich Rod almost, yeah.
Yeah, since Rich Rod, since Barwis left. So I think somebody like, Mike Joseph needs to step up, tell these guys like, hey, what are we doing here? Like, if there's anybody that's going to motivate those guys, I think at this point it's not going to be Coach Brown. It may not be your position coach. It may be somebody like Mike Joseph, who probably is closer to some of these guys than those coaches are in some instances.
Clone, what do you know about strength and conditioning coaches? How about with you in college? Were they all over you guys?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Is you got to make sure you're doing work inside and outside of practice. So they play a big role. But that's more getting the players ready. I don't think they're physically not ready. It just seems like it's more of a coaching, on-field coaching that's the issue. I think they're capable. Their strength and conditioning seems there. It's just that they're not playing up to the level that they should be playing.
Well, it's more of like a motivation factor. It's more of like a get these guys pumped and ready for the game. And I just feel like we've come out now. I mean, we've definitely been flat for the last 2 weeks. And I don't care what anybody says. Like all day long, I feel like the coaching staff will put the blame on the players for that. Oh, they came out flat. They weren't amped up.
That's coaching. It all comes from the head coach. The head coach sets the tone of the entire program, and that's coaching the coaches too. The coaches, the position coaches are going to have the biggest impact over the individual players, but it starts from the top. The head coach has to set the tone. Like that's. They take the responsibility for the wins and losses, but they also set the tone for the entire program. And I don't see that, I don't see that tone being set. You don't see that all phases of the game that, that tone is out there and that intensity is every week they're bringing it.
Man.
And I think Scooty, that's where, and I agree. Like, I think that's where, like, you think of a guy like Rich Rod, who you never felt was like a nice guy, right? And even Dana to some extent, but like Rich Rod was always yelling. He was always amped. He was always, in these kids' faces.
Yes.
Maybe there is something to say for a guy like Neal Brown being too nice.
Yeah.
Too much of a folksy.
We've not really seen that side of him, this angry side, like the bad cop.
Right.
I
loved Bill Stewart.
Yeah, Stu was the good cop.
Yeah. He's a good cop. And that's why I think as a head coach it was tough for him, because he always wanted to be a good cop. He always wanted to be a come on lads kind of guy. And
Well, she did say lads, like
He
it was
did-
some sort
he
of
did say
weird,
lads.
like he had some sort of weird Scottish link to like, come on, laddies.
but I think that I don't know. I just feel like every week I'm looking at it, and like we can sit here and we can talk about Daggy and Green. We can sit here and talk about the offensive line or whatever it might be. We can sit here and talk about all of the problems that we see on the field, but it's all preparation. It's all things that I think should be handled from a coaching side, from a leadership side, and not things that are day in, day out playing things. And I think that's what's frustrating for me, because it's not like we're looking at a much different team from last year. Yeah, you lose guys, you gain guys. That's college football. I think that Coach Brown somewhere along the line has dropped the ball on getting this team motivated to play these games, to win these games. So I guess, we focus on these 2 weeks off. We got basketball coming up, so that's always a positive. And we do our best to see what we can do to keep moving on. I mean, it's going to be a tough rest of the season, folks. I don't know what else to tell you, but buckle up. For those of you that are still downloading and listening to podcasts about WVU sports because you love WVU. I mean, I'll admit this, Scooty. I got up this morning, I put on my WVU hat, I put on my WVU t-shirt, made breakfast for my wife. The world still turned. Like, everything was still good. I still love WVU. I'm not selling my WVU paraphernalia or, I still want to go to games.
Craziest thing about this whole story right now is that you made breakfast for your wife.
Listen, I make breakfast all the time for my wife. I mean, I'm a loving husband.
What did you make?
Made a little breakfast sandwich with a little egg and bacon, some potatoes, some hash brown potatoes. I mean, that's what we do. But
Sounds delicious.
But it was delicious. But anyway, I just feel like it's and I don't even want to start talking basketball season with you, Scooty, because I feel like you're going to bring me down on that too. But I just feel like I feel like this is the first time in a long time I've looked at WVU and I'm like, yep, this is a coaching problem. This is a Neal Brown. This is a leadership coaching problem.
Well, here's the thing. We've got to see a change. We've got to see some change. Please do some. He said everything's on the table. Well, don't just float that out there. Make sure you follow up with some kind of something different, please.
Yeah.
Like,
if everything's on the table, then
I don't
hope
think
we
Letty
see
Brown's
something
a
else.
problem, but change that up then, I guess. Just some kind of change.
I mean, something's a problem.
Put Letty Brown
right.
at a wide receiver or something. I don't know.
So anyways, it's a rough time, guys. So, well, listen, let's take a break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Got Your Ears On.
Vortec Knives is a West Virginia owned and operated company specializing in high quality steel, fast opening, everyday carrying knives. If you go to vortechknives.com today and use the code GYEO, you get a 25% discount on your entire order. That's Vortech, VORTEK knives.com, a West Virginia owned and operated company specializing in fast opening, high quality, everyday carry knives. Vortec Knives.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Got Your Ears On. Guido here along with Scoot and Cloney. And guys, don't forget, you can find us online. Look for us on the social medias. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Got Your Ears. You can also look for us on Facebook. Just search Got Your Ears On. And listen, Scooty, we're still looking for people to be involved with us, right? We love people.
Yes.
And people love Scooty.
They do. And we would love to help promote your product or your service or your business. So if you have one of those three things and you are looking for an avenue to advertise one of those three things, reach out to us. Send us a slide into our DMs, as the kids say. Reach out to us. Hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Text us. Our number to text us is what, Guido?
304-518-GYEO.
You could even call us and leave us a voicemail. We answer all of these modes and mediums, and we would love to help you help yourself.
And Scoot, like, am I right in saying that we have thousands? Can I just say we have thousands of downloads a month?
That's correct. We do. We are continuously growing. We have actually doubled our downloads a month here within the last, I'd say, 3 or 4 months. We are now double what we once were.
I'm a little nervous this week. I mean, I think it might even triple with the fact that Cloney's on this week.
I mean, Cloney does bring the milkshakes to the yard.
So anyways, hit us up. We'd love to have you as a part of the show. You can even sponsor a segment or whatever. Just give us a call, 304-518-GYEO, or hit us up on social media. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Got Your Ears. Hey, Scoot, we were going to do Bluff the Fluffs this week. Johnson, he's on the shelf. He's not in. We called in a pinch hitter for us this week, Cloney. So what are we going to do here? What do you got?
Well, I thought it would be interesting. Guido, you being the native West Virginian.
Correct.
I am a driver's license holding West Virginian, so I am currently a West Virginia resident. I've been here full time since 2003, on and off since 1997. There are some terms, Cloney, that you might hear in passing when you live in West Virginia, and you don't hear them very often outside of the West Virginia, Appalachia local area. And I thought it would be interesting to see what you know about West Virginia talk.
Oh, this should be
I'm excited.
This should be really good.
Okay, the first one I want to talk about is, Cloney, if I said you're being a nib nose, what does that mean?
A dummy?
That's actually, I'm going to ask Guido. Do you know what being a nib nose is?
I don't think that must be a Ohio Valley area. A nib nose?
Nib nose.
Nosy? I would imagine
yes,
it's somebody
being
who's
nosy. Yes, if you are a nib nose, you're nibbing. You are being nosy. I've heard you're nibbing.
You're nibbing?
Yeah, to me it sounds ridiculous, but I would just say you're being nosy. But a nib nose is something you hear. This one I know Guido will know. A buggy. Cloney, what is a buggy?
Like a car?
Well, it can be a car.
No, not in the state of West Virginia. It's not a car.
Any other guesses?
Car or baby carriage? I don't know.
Shopping cart.
No, not a baby carriage. It's
shopping
a
cart.
It's like when you...
Jeez.
Yes.
When you go to the grocery store, you're going to get the buggy. Go get the buggy. Cloney, a sweeper. If I said, hey, go get the sweeper for me, what am I talking about?
I guess it's not a broom. Is it a broom?
It is not a broom.
It's not the last defender in your soccer
It
field?
is not the last defender on your soccer field.
I have no idea.
The sweeper, of course, is the vacuum, Cloney. The vacuum.
It's the vacuum. You got to go sweep the
No
floor.
one calls it a vacuum down here. It's the sweeper. Go get the sweeper.
You got to go sweep the floor.
Yeah.
You get the vacuum out and sweep the floor. That's absolutely a good one.
If I said, hey, I've got a sucker for you.
Heyo.
What is a sucker?
Would that be a lollipop?
That is a lollipop.
That is correct.
That is a lollipop.
Good job.
For whatever reason, though, they only refer to the lollipop, at least this is according to my wife. The lollipop is that big flat one, like you see on The Wizard of Oz. That is the only thing that's considered a lollipop amongst West Virginians.
That is correct. That is
everything
that is
else
a lollipop.
is like if you got a Tootsie Roll pop, that is not a lollipop. That's a sucker.
Dum Dums, those are suckers.
Cloney, if I said, hey, that is cattywampus, what does that mean? If something is cattywampus?
It's just bizarre. Just, things aren't going as planned, maybe?
If something is cattywampus, it's crooked.
Yep.
Something that might be crooked
Not
is
straight.
Yeah, not straight. Cattywamp, like the picture hanging on the wall is cattywampus.
Off skew, that picture's cattywampus.
Ramps. Are you familiar with ramps?
I know what a ramp is, yes.
What is a ramp?
Like for a car ramp?
No. You might eat these ramps.
Yes, this is edible. An edible.
A squirrel?
It is not a squirrel.
A ramp.
A ramp is it's like a native onion. Yeah. A lot of times they grow wild.
It's a wild onion, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
I'm sure people do grow them on their own, but they have a real pungent smell, like crazy smell. Like you can tell somebody's been messing with them. Yeah, it's bad. How about a holler?
What you do with the ladies?
No.
Hollering at them?
No.
Holler at them? No.
I have no idea.
A holler, Guido? Tell them what a holler is.
It's an area. It's an area of land. Usually, you might know it as a valley.
Yeah, or a hollow.
Kind of between two mountains or two hills down the holler.
Yeah, down in the holler. What, if I'm talking about a spell, what does that relate to?
These are all so good, by the way.
Is that like something where like you gone crazy for a bit, had a little bit of spell?
Well, you're
it could be.
close. Yes, you're close.
Yeah.
It's an amount of time, right? So a spell.
Yeah, it's a measurement. It's a measurement of time.
Yeah, so I'm going to go down there for a spell.
I'll be there in a spell. Yeah, right.
How about a peck?
I got to get West Virginia Duolingo for my trip down there.
You do. You need like a Rosetta Stone or something. How about a peck?
Like a kiss?
You would think a kiss. It's actually an amount. It's an amount.
All right, well, listen, let's take a break. We'll be back with a segment that we let Scooty go out on the internet and find something, and it surprises us generally. It's a segment we call I Can't Believe My Ears. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to Got Your Ears On.
Tactical Legion Knives, a West Virginia owned and operated company that specializes in heavy-duty tactical knives and gear for the professional warrior, the weekend warrior, and the outdoor warrior. Our products are built tough. For who? For warriors. Hey Mountaineer fans, make sure you go on Amazon and search Tactical Legion Knives, and when you do, make sure you put in the promo code 25TOBRADIO for Top Radio. You'll get 25% off on Tactical Legion Knives.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Got Your Ears On. Guido here along with Scoot and Cloney filling in this week for Johnson. And listen, don't forget, check out our website, gotyourearson.com. It's sort of the hub for everything. You can go there. You can find our show notes, things that we talked about, even things we didn't talk about, and pretty much hilarious links this week to tweets that were about how poor West Virginia played and how nobody trusts the climb right now. And also a link to our merch site where you can buy up to a plethora of Got Your Ears On paraphernalia, including the Pullover Guy t-shirts, which right now are for sale. $4 per t-shirt goes to the Bob Huggins Fish Fry to support the Norma Ray Huggins Foundation. So definitely check that out. You can also listen to the show right there on the website. Check it out, gotyourearson.com. Scooty, this week we let you back out on the internet. We let you find something that made us laugh. Well, we at least hope makes us laugh. It's a little segment we call I Can't Believe My Ears. What do you got for us this week, Scoot?
Okay, fellas. This is a story that is coming to us from New York City.
New York
and it
City
happened this past week. But before I get into it, I want to say, have you guys ever found yourself to be in trouble? Maybe when you were a kid, maybe you did something you shouldn't have done. I mean, I'm sure at some point you've done that.
And that's like a
correct?
weekly occurrence for Cloney, right? Like Cloney is in trouble like pretty much every week.
All the time.
All the time.
So did you have a place that you would go if you were in trouble to avoid being in trouble?
Like to hide, like as a kid, like you hide out?
Yeah.
Like under your covers, under your bed?
Maybe under your covers,
maybe in the
under
woods?
your bed.
In the treehouse
in the
that you
woods,
built?
maybe your closet or something.
Okay, I don't know.
Well, there's a gentleman named Rudy Thomas who was 44 years old, and he had been in trouble. He was threatening he was threatening his mother with violence, and he had an outstanding warrant for hitting his girlfriend. So some might call him a ne'er-do-well.
What did he not do well?
He ne'er does well. Yes, he's ne'er.
Okay.
So, and Johnson loves that. So that was for Johnson. So anyway, when the police arrived, instead of having a conversation with the police or denying all of these things, Rudy took it upon himself to go onto the roof of his house and then onto a tree that was in his yard. And he climbed all the way to the top of the tree while he was trying to avoid the police. Yes, kind of like a cat
running away from the police.
And one would think, okay, kind of strange. How about he was up there for 3 days? He was in the tree for 3 days.
Your cat gets caught in a tree, Cloney, and you call the fire department. They come like within a day, right? Like This guy's up there 3 days?
3 days.
They couldn't hit him with a dart like a bear?
NYPD had a dart. NYPD had flown drones. They had sirens going off. They tried all these different tactics to try to get him to come down out of the tree. So he spent 3 days. He apparently was yelling that he has a lawsuit against NYPD, the Rikers Island, the DOC. And according to neighbors, he's done this before.
Climbed the tree?
And hung out for multiple days. This is a thing he does.
This is what Rudy is like. The guy, he's like in your neighborhood. He's like, oh, don't make Rudy mad. He's going to climb a
He'll
tree
be
for
in
3
that
days.
tree for a couple days. Oh, it's just Rudy up there.
Are they going to put like the pigeon spikes on the tree next time?
Yeah, like a spike strip.
Yes.
Yeah, they didn't want to cut the tree down. He eventually, well, and here's the thing. Like, I mean, I'm not a hostage negotiator, but I would think, you know what? And I am somewhat of a hostage negotiator in the sense that I do work in the public school system. But I would think, hey, you know what? Rudy's getting a lot of attention right now. What if we just kind of backed off, went away? Maybe Rudy will come down out of the tree and then we'll get him. So eventually that's what actually I think helped lead to get him. And it was kind of a big story, though, this past week in New York City. So, yeah, 3 days in a tree. They actually, people were like, neighbors were like sending him blankets and they sent him some food.
If you have a few minutes, you got to go check out. Like, I'm at WLNY, the CBS channel for New York City. There's video and pictures of Rudy in a tree. And he's like waving at the camera. He's all set up there. He's got like blankets. It's an interesting fella right there. He enjoys his time in a tree.
Yeah, it's according to the story I read, that when nature called, he would just pee down from his branch.
Oh, jeez.
When it was time to go to sleep, he put cotton in his ears.
I mean, Scoot, could you sleep in a tree?
No. I'm anti-bugs, and I know bugs live in trees, so that would be a problem.
Scoot, would you sleep in a tent?
I would sleep in a tent. Yeah, I can sleep in a tent. I have actually gone tent camping with Cloney and some others, but Cloney was a part of some tent camping.
That had to be a pretty big tent.
We were not in the same. I don't think we were in the same tent. I don't recall how the tent arrangements were, but
well, we weren't like snuggling, Guido.
No, we were not snuggling in the tent. It was not like a 2-man tent. It was like it was like a big tent.
All right.
I can handle the camping. I can't handle do you think Rudy wanted a tree house growing up and this was the best thing he could get? Like, this is the closest thing he could get to a tree house?
Well, and what's funny is if you look at the pictures, the tree that he's in, it's got like electric wires running right by it and all around him.
I mean, it's Brooklyn. It's not like he's in a tree like out in the middle of the woods somewhere. It's Brooklyn.
Yeah, right. There's like 3 trees on that street.
Just kind of an interesting story that I found on the internet that spending 3 days in a tree.
3 days in a tree. It might have been nice. I mean, we've all got to go to work tomorrow. He's going to hang out in a tree for a couple of days, so you never know. Well, guys, we should probably wrap it up this week. Cloney, thank you so much for filling in for Johnson. I know he's appreciative of it.
Oh, yeah. Anytime. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot about West Virginia lingo.
Yeah, you come down. I want you to use all of those terms in one setting. That's your challenge.
Yes, absolutely.
Just take me into like a restaurant to order something off the menu and go through the list.
Yes, just go through the list.
Well, guys, listen, we play TCU in 2 weeks in Fort Worth. We'll be back next week with another show on our off week, so don't worry. We'll talk about TCU coming up. We'll see what's happened in the week that has been while we're off from losing, and maybe we'll get back on the road to winning. Who knows? But check us out online. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter. Look for us at Got Your Ears. You can also look for us online on our website. Just check out GotYourEarsOn.com. And thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll be back next week. You've been listening to Got Your Ears On.